My name is David. I am 32 years old and I am sitting in a freezing courtroom staring at the witness stand where my own flesh and blood is actively destroying my life. Just 48 hours ago, I drained my life savings, sold my truck, and ruined my own reputation to keep my younger brother out of prison for a crime he committed. I hugged him outside the courthouse, crying tears of relief. But now, he is looking the prosecutor in the eye, swearing under oath that I was the mastermind behind his illegal operation, trading my freedom for his immunity. The sheer weight of the betrayal crushes my chest, and as he points his trembling finger right at me, I realize the nightmare is only just beginning. To understand how I ended up in this living hell, you need to know how deep the bond between us went. Growing up, it was always just me and my brother. Our mother walked out on us when I was barely 10 years old, leaving me to step up and be the parent. I learned how to cook cheap meals, stretch a dollar, and lie to the school when the electricity was shut off. My brother, Marcus, is 29 years old, and since he was a toddler, I was his ultimate shield against a cruel world. I spent my teenage years pulling him out of fights and making excuses for his incredibly reckless and selfish behavior. While Marcus drifted from one dead-end job to another, getting fired constantly, I put my head down and worked. For 8 brutal years, I woke up at 4 in the morning to work at a construction site, spending my evenings fixing cars in a dusty garage. Every dollar went into a lockbox. Eventually, my dream became a reality. I opened my own auto repair shop, and it quickly became the pride of my life. I hired my best friend, Sarah. Sarah is 33 years old, a brilliant mechanic with a sharp tongue. She became my shop manager, my confidant, and the sister I never had. I finally felt safe. But my sense of safety was shattered when Marcus showed up at my door one rainy Tuesday night. He was completely broke, looking thin and desperate, and he told me he had been evicted. Against my better judgment, I offered him a job at the shop doing inventory. I thought that giving him a steady paycheck would finally force him to grow up. Sarah saw right through it from day one. She pulled me aside, her eyes full of concern, and warned me that bringing him into my business was a massive mistake. I got defensive, blinded by my loyalty, completely ignoring the red flags waving in my face. For the first few months, things actually went smoothly. But then, I started noticing strange discrepancies in our accounting. High-end catalytic converters and expensive engine parts were being ordered, but they were never showing up in our physical inventory. I decided to stay late one night to audit the books myself. It didn't take a genius to see what was happening. Marcus was using the shop's accounts to buy expensive parts, intercepting the deliveries, and selling them on the black market. He was using my business, my absolute dream, as a front for his illegal side hustle. I confronted him the very next morning. I slammed the forged invoices on the table. Marcus didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. He just shrugged, flashing an arrogant smirk, and told me I was overreacting. I screamed at him, fired him on the spot, and told him to get out. I thought cutting him off would be the end of it, but 3 weeks later, the police raided my shop. They came in with a search warrant, seizing my computers and every single record I had. I stood in the parking lot, completely numb, watching my whole world collapse right in front of my own terrified eyes. The lead detective pulled me into an interrogation room and laid out a massive case file. It turned out Marcus was involved with a major organized theft ring in the city. Because the parts were bought using my company's credentials, they assumed my shop was the central hub. They were preparing to arrest Marcus, and he was looking at a mandatory sentence of 5 to 7 years in prison. The detective offered me a deal. If I admitted to negligent management and paid a massive restitution fine, they would let Marcus plead down to a simple misdemeanor with probation, keeping him totally free. The catch was, I would lose my business license, drain my savings, and carry a permanent criminal record. When I told Sarah, she practically exploded. "Are you out of your mind?" she yelled, tears streaming down her face. "He ruined your business, and now you want to take the fall? Let him face the consequences." She was right, but the thought of my brother in a concrete cell made me sick. The next morning, I walked back into the police station and signed my life away. I bankrupted myself completely, taking out a high-interest loan just to cover the massive fines. I sacrificed everything. When Marcus found out what I had done, he broke down crying in the courthouse hallway. He hugged me so tight, swearing he was going to change and that he owed me his life. For a brief, naive moment, I actually believed him. I walked out of that courthouse with empty pockets and a ruined reputation, but I felt a strange sense of peace, thinking I had saved his soul. For 2 days, I sat in my empty apartment trying to figure out how to rebuild my life from absolute zero. Sarah came over with a pizza, trying to cheer me up, but the illusion of safety didn't last very long at all. On the morning of the 3rd day, there was a loud pounding on my front door. I opened it to find federal agents. They pushed past me and informed me that the stolen parts were from federal military vehicles. The local plea deal did not protect us from a major federal investigation. I tried to explain that I had already taken responsibility, but the agent just looked at me with disgust. He pulled out a transcript and dropped it on my coffee table. He told me they had picked Marcus up for questioning late last night, and, faced with federal prison, my brother hadn't hesitated for a second. My hands shook violently as I read the words my brother had spoken. He claimed he was just an innocent employee and that I was the mastermind of the entire operation. He lied and said I had forced him to forge the invoices by threatening to fire him and leave him homeless. He painted me as a ruthless criminal who used his struggling younger brother as a pawn. The agents didn't care about my frantic protests. They slapped heavy metal handcuffs on my wrists, read me my rights, and marched me out of my apartment. I was thrown into the back of a federal transport vehicle, completely numb. And that brings me back to this freezing courtroom. I am sitting here, watching Marcus put on the performance of a lifetime. He is crying fake tears, looking at the jury with big, innocent eyes, playing the victim perfectly. The sheer audacity of his betrayal is almost suffocating. He won't even look in my direction because he knows that if he looks at me, he will see the monster he has become. I had given up my entire life to save him, and in return, he had handed me over to the wolves the very moment he felt a breeze of danger. My heart pounded wildly against my ribcage. But Marcus made one fatal mistake in his desperate scramble to save himself. He forgot that while he was out partying and scheming, I was the one managing a legitimate and highly organized business. I kept meticulous records. When Sarah realized what was happening after my arrest, she didn't just sit back and cry. She went to the impound lot where my old computers were being held as evidence for the local case. With a court order she practically bullied a judge into signing, she retrieved a hidden backup drive I kept securely taped under my desk. She handed it straight to my defense. My lawyer stands up to cross-examine my brother. He starts slowly, letting Marcus repeat his lies, letting him dig his grave deeper into perjury. Then my lawyer walks over to the projector and plugs in Sarah's hard drive for everyone to see. I had installed a security system in the shop months ago to monitor customer disputes, complete with audio recording in the main office. Marcus never knew about the audio feature. The entire courtroom goes dead silent as a series of recordings begin to play. The speakers echo with Marcus's voice, clearly making shady deals and laughing about it. The audio captures Marcus explicitly telling the black market buyers, "Make sure my brother never sees this paperwork. He is a straight-laced idiot." The color instantly drains from Marcus's face. He looks like he has just seen a ghost as his elaborate web of lies completely collapses. The recordings prove everything. They prove Marcus acted entirely alone, that he actively hid the operation from me, and that he knew exactly where the federal military parts came from. He lied to the federal agents, he lied to the grand jury, and he lied directly on the stand under oath. By committing perjury, he instantly violated his immunity agreement. His entire deal is immediately voided. The judge is furious. He slams his gavel down so hard it echoes through the room like a loud gunshot. He immediately orders the bailiffs to take Marcus into custody for perjury and obstruction of justice. As the officers grab his arms, Marcus finally looks at me. His eyes are wide with pure panic, tears streaming down his face, begging me silently to do something. But this time, I don't move a single muscle. I just watch the consequences of his actions catch up to him. The federal charges against me were dropped the very next day, and I walked out of that courthouse an innocent man. But I had absolutely nothing left. My business was gone, my savings were drained, and my faith in family was totally shattered. Marcus was sentenced to 12 years in a federal penitentiary. He tried to call me a dozen times from the jail, but I blocked his number permanently. For the first year, I battled severe depression, working as a low-level mechanic at a corporate dealership to survive. Slowly, the heavy fog of betrayal began to lift, and I started saving money again. 6 months ago, Sarah and I finally opened a new shop together. We are equal partners this time. It is smaller than my old place, and we're working grueling hours, but it is ours. The sound of air wrenches and the smell of motor oil finally bring me peace again. I have built a new family, one based on loyalty, trust, and mutual respect, rather than just shared blood and toxic obligations. I learned the hardest way possible that sometimes the people who share your DNA are the most toxic poisons in your life, and cutting them out entirely isn't a betrayal, it is basic survival. Looking back on everything, I realized my biggest flaw was believing that my unconditional love could somehow fix a deeply broken person. I let my sense of duty as an older brother blind me to the reality of who Marcus truly was, and I nearly lost my freedom because of it. I will never make the mistake of setting myself on fire just to keep someone else warm ever again. Blood makes you related, but loyalty is what makes you family. Would you have sacrificed everything to save a sibling? Or would you have let them face the music from the very beginning? Until the next story.